thought, well, this guy, he's drunk. You know, come out here and buy these ranches to put a spaceship deal out here. He's got to be drinking some kind of bad whiskey or something. It's true. But I guess he's got enough money to do it. Whatever he wants to do, he's got the money to play the game.
From 10 miles outside of town to Highway 62-180 is 45 miles, and he owns all of that on both sides. They don't let anything out about it. This is the entrance, but you have to have the key in order to get in.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
Just like an average, ordinary guy until you talk to him, and then you realize this guy's got a lot on his plate, and he knows what he's doing.
5, 4, command at start, 2, 1.
Number one is Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos. He is the first centibillionaire.
Depuis vendredi, la fortune du patron d'Amazon dépasse les 100 milliards de dollars.
I'm using my resources to put in place heavy lifting infrastructure so that the next generation of people can have a dynamic, entrepreneurial explosion into space.
Is the Earth still large enough to satisfy the ambitions of Jeff Bezos? Amazon is the largest store in the world. It sends out 158 parcels per second, adding up to 5 billion each year. Its boss, Jeff Bezos, has a single obsession: to sell everything, instantly, everywhere, and to satisfy his customers' every desire. There are 300 million Amazon customers worldwide today. The multinational company is revolutionizing commerce and the way we consume. It has even succeeded in shrinking time and space. How exactly is Amazon taking over the whole planet? What does Jeff Bezos want that he doesn't already have? What future does the multinational wish to impose on us, and at what cost? Our story begins in 1994 in a Seattle suburb. Jeff Bezos, a 30-something Wall Street expatriate, creates Amazon in his garage.
I'm Jeff Bezos.
And what is your claim to fame?
I'm the founder of Amazon.com.
Where did you get an idea for Amazon.com?
Well, 3 years ago, I was in New York City working for a quantitative hedge fund when I came across the startling statistic that web usage was growing at 2,300% a year. So I decided I would try and find a business plan that made sense in the context of that growth.
In the beginning, there were only 3.
One of the things that was really happening in Seattle at that time was grunge. So you had Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all of that kind of music. So there were plaid shirts on everyone.
Paul Davis is one of the programmers who developed Amazon's very first website.
And Amazon itself was out in a suburb that really was very far from the city and clubs and any kind of scene that might be happening. There were basically 2 programmers working hard at writing code, and Jeff working hard on the sort of businessy side of the new company. There wasn't this kind of really fueled energy, you know, like, oh my God, you know, what's going to be our goal today? What are we going to tick off today? Oh my God, if that isn't done today, things fall apart. It was more just a case of methodically working as quickly as we could. Like, books arrived, somebody was going to have to pack them up and ship them out. And sometimes that would be Jeff. This is like the super early days when it was really just still the 3 of us plus his wife working part-time. Sometimes it would be his wife Mackenzie. Sometimes it would even be Shell or I, if there weren't that many and we weren't super tied up in something. This is at a time where, you know, we were handling, you know, maybe less than 20 books per day or something.
"25 years later, Amazon no longer sends 20 parcels, but 14 million a day. The company owns over 250 warehouses and delivers on 5 continents. Amazon's success caught Stacy Mitchell's attention. She heads the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, a research center studying the evolution of the American economy. For the past 10 years, she's been closely monitoring the growth of the beast.
Amazon is it's like this invisible force. You know, it's got its tentacles in so many aspects of the economy. There's nothing that Amazon isn't trying to get into. They're now the biggest clothing retailer in the US, and they produce a lot of clothing. Bookstores, toy stores, hardware stores. It's kind of grown invisibly. It doesn't get noticed or covered by the media in the same way because it's not physically present except in just a few places.
Amazon is growing so rapidly, they are creating a lot of jobs, but as they grow, they're destroying a lot of jobs. And we found that for every 1 new Amazon job that had been created, there were 2 jobs that were lost at existing businesses.
We've lost about 85,000 independent small businesses in the last 10 years. We've lost about 35,000 small and mid-sized manufacturers. You know, Amazon isn't the only cause, but it's the top cause of those losses.
Stacy Mitchell investigates Amazon's strategy of conquest.
There's a kind of a balancing act that they seem to walk between slowly taking over everything or rapidly taking over everything and yet not being so visible that people become alarmed. So in some ways, the train has left the station, and as a society, if we're going to try to figure out how to bring that back, it's much harder to do now than it would have been 10 years ago if we had noticed what was really happening.
In the United States, Amazon now controls half of all online commerce. The company leads online sales in clothing, electronics, books, DVDs, personal care, and beauty products. It also offers video on demand, online music streaming, video games, data storage, insurance, as well as drugs. Amazon also embodies a certain vision of America, progressive and liberal. Its acquisition of Whole Foods, leader of high-end organic produce, is a good example. Jeff Bezos is a complex character. He's a CEO as well as an investor. But in 2013, he personally acquired the Washington Post, one of the most prestigious newspapers in the U.S. Step by step, the Amazon empire extends its grip on the world.
Yeah, really, Amazon at this point it represents the transformation of the American economy. I mean, the old saying when I first came to the street and kind of back in the day was what's good for GM is good for the country. Today, that's largely Amazon as the largest market cap company. It's greatly intertwined with the entire American and global economy.
Amazon essentially controls the marketplace. It's not really a market, it's a private arena. Amazon sets the rules. It gets to decide which companies get the best spots, which companies rank in the search rankings, who can even be there, what they're allowed to sell, how they can communicate with their customers, what they have to pay in order to be part of it.
The old saying is if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So Amazon looks like a monopoly, trades like a monopoly, makes money like a monopoly, behaves like a monopoly. So when I looked at it, you have to use monopolies in the traditional sense to find a comparable type company.
The real definition of a monopoly is when you have the ability to control the terms by which other players can access the market. It's when you have that kind of power to dictate what happens. And Amazon has that power. Amazon has become a kind of gatekeeper. And their strategy is very much about being the e-commerce platform for the entire world.
Amazon is conquering one territory after another. After the US, Jeff Bezos took control of England, Germany, France, Japan, Canada, Italy, Spain, Brazil, Mexico, and Australia. Today, the decisive battle for the company is taking place in India. In 2013, Amazon arrived in India with the intention of gaining control of a market estimated at $100 billion. Conquer or falter.
What Amazon has been able to achieve globally is they've been able to win pretty much all major markets globally, right? Whether it is in Europe or in the US and some of the other Asian markets as well, outside of China. The only battlefield which is still open is India. So A, this is the only battlefield is open, and B, it is a significantly large battlefield.
Amazon now, sir. Good morning, ma'am.
India is the fastest growing economy in the world, with a 7% growth in 2017.
Okay, ma'am. Good morning.
Thank you.
In recent years, some 200 million Indians have joined the middle class, dramatically increasing the number of internet users and eager consumers. As a result, Indian e-commerce is growing by 30 to 50% every year. Amazon is not the only company trying to tap into this growth. Competing with Jeff Bezos is Flipkart, the leader of the Indian market, founded by two ex-Amazon employees, and Paytm, a new startup financed by Chinese giant Alibaba. The three of them are waging a multi-billion-dollar commercial war. In his first year, Jeff Bezos invested $2 billion and then $2 billion more the following year. To gain market share, Amazon has already invested $5 billion in India without seeing a profit.
All these three players are armed till the tooth. They have a lot of ammunition, a lot of funding, big guys backing up. So you don't see anyone falling apart anytime soon.
The battle gets even more complex as these multinational corporations are facing a very strong nationalist pushback in India. This is the case in Old Delhi, the commercial district of the Indian capital. Here, commercial structures have remained unchanged for hundreds of years.
हमने कुछ भी नहीं करा है, हमारी तरफ ये होंगे भी क्यों? व्यापारियों की तरफ क्यों होंगे? चोर की तरीके से समझते हैं हमने आज तक कोई डंडा नहीं उठाया, किसी के मारा नहीं। हम अपने मंत्रियों के जाके उनके घर पे घिराव करो ना, हमें दूसरों के घर पे घिराव करने की क्या जरूरत है?
राजीव जी, हमने जो अपने बीच में जो यहाँ बनाए हुए हैं, उनको जो नीति है, मैं चाहता हूँ पहले आप उनकी बात भी सुन लें, उसके बाद में डिस्कशन करें। हम तो यही बैठे, हम करेंगे।
Sitting at this table are 15 angry men, the largest group of merchants in Old Delhi. Each owns several shops in the neighborhood. They are the first to feel the impact of Amazon's presence.
ये 10 साल से जुड़े हुए हैं। हम तो छोटे-छोटे थे जब 6वीं 7वीं क्लास में भी ये क्लास के अंदर ये हमारी पढ़ाई के अंदर ये चैप्टर आया था, हिंदुस्तान गुलाम कैसे हुआ। उसमें लिखते थे कि ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी व्यापारी के रूप में आई हिंदुस्तान के अंदर और धीरे-धीरे उसने इतनी जगह जमा ली कि हिंदुस्तान को गुलाम कर दिया।
The merchants of Old Delhi are worried, but they have a major asset to slow down Amazon's rise. They formed the electoral base of the BJP, the party in power in India since 2014. Its leader, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, promotes an exacerbated form of nationalism and defends a protectionist view of the economy. The Indian government recently introduced a bill that could severely limit Amazon's room to maneuver, notably by preventing it from undercutting prices. Jeff Bezos had to engage in a diplomatic game. He regularly meets with Prime Minister Modi.
It's a significant stake for Amazon, and for the kind of investments which Amazon has been doing in the Indian market is reflection of the point that how seriously they take this market. And if it fails, it will reflect bad in a global way for Amazon. It's not a regional story, it's a global story for Amazon.
To counter the Americans, the merchants of Old Delhi have a plan to ensure the government doesn't forget them.
Our businesses will be hurt because their plans is for 5 years or 10 years down the line. Because they have deep pockets, they can afford to sustain big losses. That is why they are coming to India. You can see any example in the world, wherever they went in the first instance, they created their own market and again then created their monopoly, and charges were huge.
This bus will go around the country to alert other merchants and the population at large of the threat that looms over India. In 2018, Amazon announced its intention to invest, yet again, another $2 billion in the country. Its operations in India have so far resulted in a net loss of $883 million. Investing massive amounts of money, often at a loss, in order to conquer market share is the foundation of Jeff Bezos' global strategy. Despite this risky plan, Amazon's boss still maintains the confidence of the financial markets. Amazon's stock value rises constantly. In the last 4 years, it has increased fivefold.
Amazon lost about $3 billion in its first 6 years in business, selling books at a loss. And it worked, you know. I mean, now Amazon is the dominant book retailer with more than half the market. And they've consistently done that in one sector after another, where they go in, they lose money. Other companies that don't have the same backing from Wall Street, aren't able to operate at a loss. They go out of business. Amazon takes over. You know, and this is a company that is able to lose money like that in a way that no one else is.
Jeff Bezos, CEO, I mean, one of the things when you're analyzing a company is management's credibility. He spent time on Wall Street at a large hedge fund. So I believe he sort of intuitively knew what institutional investors were looking for, knew how to educate them about timeframes. I mean, as an analyst, it's not just about how much cash, but you want to know when that cash is expected to come in the door. That helps you build better financial models. And so I believe he did a good job being able to speak the language to financial market participants.
Jeff Bezos has been very astute at how he communicates what he's doing to Wall Street. And he always talks about this idea that Amazon is for the long term, that he's not focused on the short term, that what he's building is something much bigger and it's over the long term. And Wall Street investors have very much bought into that idea, and they have backed this company even in the years when Amazon lost a lot of money, years when they made very little money. Wall Street continued to back this company.
Jeff Bezos was successful in imposing his long-term vision to an economy geared towards short-term profits. Having secured the confidence of Wall Street, he was able to make all of the world's commodities available in one click. This ideal of accessibility was born 50 years ago in San Francisco, capital of the American counterculture. GAFA, Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon are the unexpected heirs to these California hippies.
A click, like that. Press your middle finger to your thumb, drag them apart, snapping like that. You can find adult pajamas with cat memes or typewriters fashion manual. You can have insulin syringes and wallets, greeting cards, eating books corporeal like that. You can have anything delivered to your door, a snap, and forever to consider why you did.
In the 1960s in California, thousands of young Americans turned away from industrial society, the Vietnam War, and the atomic bomb. They decided to return to the land and live in communities based on new principles. This was the birth of the commune movement.
They were anti-big technology. They didn't like bombs. They didn't like heavy industry. but they loved LSD. They loved automobiles. They loved VW vans. They loved the products, the kind of consumer products of industrial society. And what they wanted to do was take those consumer products and repurpose them, turn them into the foundations of a new kind of society, a society built on shared experiences, personal ambition, consumption. Consumption for the communalists was going to be the foundation of a consciousness-oriented society.
The Whole Earth Catalog was part of the movement. This publication was created by Stuart Brand, a former biology student and a jack of all trades. He wanted to help communalists find everything they needed to fend for themselves by showing them where to buy all the necessary tools.
It's so weird because, right, so these people are going to build farms, but what kind of tools do they take? Well, they take books. And that's because what people wanted in the communes was not just farm equipment, but consciousness equipment. They wanted to change their minds. Catalog is absolutely central to the counterculture and to the commune movement of the late 1960s. But it's also central to Silicon Valley. They found this world and they began to reimagine computers as the kinds of tools that the Whole Earth Catalog had promised.
When I was young, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog, which was one of the Bibles of my generation. It was idealistic, overflowing with neat tools and great notions. On the back cover of their final issue were the words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." It was their farewell message as they signed off. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And I have always wished that for myself.
You know, when you look at the catalog, it is trying to give you access to goods that will transform your life, and it is trying to be whole. It is trying to literally be the whole world of goods. You can see that now in the Amazon world on steroids. Amazon is in many ways trying to be the whole world of access to the things you might want to buy. In its structure, in its interconnections, in its being a global information system to supply goods that make your life better, it's the catalog online.
Thanks to the internet, has Amazon globalized the ideals of the Whole Earth Catalog? Today, Stuart Brand, its founder, has a very rich friend, Jeff Bezos. But affinities between hippies and Wall Street stop here. Jeff Bezos is a libertarian advocating for small government. He values complete entrepreneurial freedom, unimpeded by laws and regulations.
Amazon burned off the social vision that animated so many in the 1960s. The hope of a better world through consumption, through interconnected information systems, that's gone. At least it's gone for the consumers of Amazon. And it's gone along with my local bookstores. It's gone along with some of my local shops. It's gone. The civic world is not something that I see Amazon caring about at all. And I think that's a great shame. I think it's picked up on one of the core elements of the Whole Earth Catalog, but it's lost whatever civic vision animated the catalog. And that's a great shame.
Mein Name ist Alexander, Schreiber. Ich bin aufgewachsen und wohne wieder in Leipzig. Bin 41 Jahre alt und ich arbeite seit fast 7 Jahren, August 2011, bei Amazon in Leipzig. Und die Pickwege dazwischen angelegt. Ist also über die Jahre sehr viel zusammengekommen und inzwischen bin ich in jeder der 4 großen Abteilungen Receive, Stow, Pick and Packing einsetzbar.
Before joining Amazon, Alexander was a soldier in the German army. But in the warehouse, he was confronted with a ruthless work culture, where employees are treated like robots.
Denn es wird in der Regel so umgesetzt, dass ein Arbeitsplatz, ein Prozess konstruiert wird und anschließend die menschliche Größe eingepasst wird als Puzzleteil und nicht andersrum. Im Haus ist nicht der einzelne Vorgang, einen einzigen Artikel einzulagern oder einen einzigen Artikel abzuholen oder einen einzelnen Artikel in ein Päckchen zu verpacken, sondern die Herausforderung ist die ständige Wiederholung. Dass man es gegebenenfalls 500 Mal am Tag macht, dass man es gegebenenfalls 10.000 Mal in der Woche macht, dass man es 500.000 Mal vielleicht im Jahr macht. Und dabei körperlich, also physisch gesund zu bleiben und vom Kopf psychisch das Ganze so abzulegen, dass man es nach 500.000 Mal immer noch genau macht, immer noch gut genug macht.
You have a scanner that there's a line telling you where you have to go. When you pack, you have to move the way where computers stand, and the scanners and the managers and teachers and leaders teach you to make so-called sequation of movement. So first you take this hand, you pack like this, and you pack and do the line, and you really have to follow all these movements. There's something new in this sense, that you work as a machine, but you are also controlled by machines, and this is something scary. If you don't follow this rhythm of that corporation push on you, you are just not accepted. They tell you, if you don't like working here, you just go. We don't want unhappy workers.
Und dass ich, wenn ich das im Jahr 500.000 Mal machen muss, ich mich nicht so selbst langweile, dass ich in das beispielsweise psychologische Bore-out-Syndrom falle. Das dann die gleichen Effekte hat wie ein Burnout, aber durch ständige Unterforderung, geistige Unterforderung geprägt ist. Das ist die Herausforderung und das ist die psychische Anforderung an die Mitarbeiter, die Hauptanforderung in meinen Augen.
In Germany on Black Friday, the unions are calling for a strike.
Ich begrüße euch erstmal. Herzlich willkommen beim Streik zur Prime Week bei Amazon. Das heute richtig gut auf die Beine gestellt. Erstmal einen Applaus dafür, Alex.
Dankeschön an die, die mitgeholfen haben beim Rausholen. Hat gut geklappt. Merci. Das wird so sein, dass wir
In Europe, Jeff Bezos is facing strong states where social protections are especially important and where employees have more labor rights.
Spätestens 11 Uhr nach dem individuellen Verlegen auf dem Augustusplatz.
For the last 5 years, Verdi, the main German union, has been organizing strikes in the country's 11 Amazon warehouses.
Hast du da auf der Eintrittserklärung eine Erreichbarkeit telefonisch oder E-Mail mit angegeben? Gut.
The workers are mainly asking for wage increases. Thanks to these mobilizations, the Leipzig warehouse workers have successfully increased their wages by 11.2% in the last 5 years.
Dann bis morgen. Ja, habe ich. Danke euch. Merci. Steffen, ciao.
April 2018. The major German media group Axel Springer is about to award Bezos its prize for the most innovative person of the year. Verdi has called on workers from all over Europe to come and protest in front of the building. Standing alongside the Germans today are Polish, Italian, and French workers. They are 1,000 strong.
Welcome to Berlin.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Today, Amazon is employing 566,000 people. You are probably the biggest job creator of recent times. At the same time, you are aggressively criticized by unions and by media for paying low wages, for inappropriate working conditions. How do you deal with these accusations?
If you're going to do anything new or innovative, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. If you can't afford to be misunderstood, then for goodness sake, don't do anything new or innovative. I'm very proud of our working conditions, and I'm very proud of the wages that we pay. In Germany, we employ 16,000 people. We pay at the high end of the range for any comparable work.
We demand wages and benefits that allow us to work less so we can live more.
We have very good communications with our employees. So we don't believe that we need a union to be an intermediary between us and our employees.
Congratulate you for all you have achieved.
Thank you, Matthias.
And congratulations.
You're very nice. Thank you. That was great. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
In 2017, Amazon made $178 billion in total revenue. The multinational is crushing all its competitors in online sales. But Amazon is also the leader in another area. It has nothing to do with parcels or material goods, but it's of strategic importance. The cloud, an online data storage infrastructure. Entire databases and web services are physically hosted in Amazon's data centers, huge buildings filled with servers. Amazon owns 120 data centers like this one, spread around the world. In 2017, Amazon Web Services accounted for only 12% of its turnover, but 60% of its profits.
Amazon a lot as a retailer, but it's a mistake to think of Amazon that way. Amazon is a company that really wants to control the underlying infrastructure of the economy. So it wants to be the platform on which all buying and selling happens. It wants to be basically the interface between all buyers and sellers. It is a major part of the cloud. It's Amazon Web Services controls about 1/3 of the world's cloud computing capacity. And increasingly, it's moving into shipping and package delivery. There isn't anything in history that's quite like Amazon. I mean, it's completely a new thing. We've never really encountered anything like this. But you can think about it in some ways like a railroad, in the sense that that's what Amazon controls, and lots of other companies need access to that in order to get to market. That's an incredibly powerful position. I don't think Amazon has any other competitor that could potentially challenge it. I think the only thing that could stop Amazon today would be government intervention.
Aware of the risk, Amazon is increasingly nurturing its relationships with governments. In 17 years, its lobbying expenses exploded. In the United States, they've gone from $492,000 in the year 2000 to $13 million in 2017. In Europe alone, they add up to at least 2 million euros. Will Jeff Bezos use this money to counter a less than accommodating Europe? In 2017, for the first time, the European Commission decided to attack the company. Margaret Vestager, European Commissioner for Competition, sanctioned Amazon for its tax arrangements.
The Commission has today adopted a decision that Amazon's tax benefits are illegal under EU state aid rules. A tax ruling granted by Luxembourg has reduced Amazon's tax bill in more than 8 years, between May 2006 and June 2014. It was not justified. Amazon now has to repay the tax benefit worth around 250 million euros plus interest.
Amazon paid the 250 million, but Luxembourg appealed the decision. Not all states endorse the commissioner's approach, nor do they all support other measures that promote tax fairness.
The thing with Amazon, and we know that from the tax case, is that you don't necessarily make profits, but you create value. So you create value on the stock exchange, but you don't make profit in your business. So people make money by buying and selling stocks instead of making money by having a profit coming out of the business in itself. And one of the reasons why we are so eager also to have a sort of broad European digital taxation is to make sure that we get it right. Because digital companies on average pay 9% in tax, where ordinary businesses on average pay 23% in tax.
Europe is trying to put in place a new tax that specifically targets GAFA, including Amazon. This new tax would levy their revenues and not their profits, since these web giants usually store away their profits in countries with low tax rates. France is alone in defending this initiative.
We have all had a wake-up call to say, well, yes, technology is fascinating and it produces great things that we can do, but there's a bad side to everything. There's a threat to our democracy, there's a threat to the way we do business, there's a threat for us as consumers to be respected in the marketplace. We need to get in control of that.
So here it is, the world according to Amazon, a world where a single company controls the distribution of all our daily products, the infrastructure of our economy.
When I'm buying stuff on Amazon or receiving packages, or I have friends who are doing it, I'm like, yes, awesome, you know, man, that's a great thing that we built. But as I said, if I put on my other hats of being a citizen, then I'm a lot more questioning of whether I really feel any pride in that. I think most of the time I feel almost the opposite, really. That I helped to create something that may not turn out to really be a net good in the world.
The issue is, who shapes the future of our country? Is it us or is it Amazon? You know, that's the question.
On the Pacific Coast in Seattle, that question has already been answered. Here, Amazon is already imposing its vision of the world of tomorrow. At first glance, it's an ideal world. The company's headquarters are located in this building called Day One. At its feet, the brand new structure wanted by Jeff Bezos. A series of glass balls sheltering rare tropical plants like a biotope 2.0, where Amazon employees come to work in harmony with a domesticated nature. In total, 20% of Seattle's downtown area is occupied by Amazon. In the last 8 years, 40,000 new executives from around the world have joined the ranks of the American giant. Often young and very well paid, they can take full advantage of the Amazon way of life and can preview much of the company's innovations. Lockers where you can pick up your packages at any time. Or Amazon Go, supermarkets where no checkout is required. Customers enter with their smartphone, and the computer automatically charges their account. To welcome these newcomers, luxurious buildings are constantly being constructed. Thanks to Amazon, Seattle has become a favorite city for the American executive class. But at night, Seattle becomes a completely different city. Since Amazon's arrival, with its numerous hires of senior executives, rents in Seattle have been rising by 10% each year. The poorest can no longer find housing, even if they have a job. Here, 30% of the homeless population is employed. At City Hall, Seattle's youngest city councilor, Teresa Mosqueda, made housing the priority of her mandate.
We saw about a 600% increase in homelessness, and we saw twice the amount of people who are living in RVs become homeless. That number is immense. You can see the crisis of poverty and homelessness on the street. However, here in Seattle, we have a higher rate of homelessness per capita than cities like Los Angeles, which is a call for action, and it's imperative that we do something. We have 1,000 people who are moving to this region a week, which means if we're not building housing, the cost of housing increases. People who were in otherwise affordable rental units really have nowhere to go. They are falling into the street, or they are getting displaced and pushed out of Seattle.
Spring 2018, City Council proposes the creation of a new tax. The biggest companies in Seattle, including Amazon, will have to pay $500 per employee per year in order to finance the construction of social housing.
We had initially proposed a tax package that would have brought in $75 million a year, which is a drop in the bucket of what we actually needed. We ended up with $47 million per year, which Amazon agreed to. The proposal was passed unanimously by the council and signed by the mayor. Within 24 hours of Amazon agreeing to that amount of taxing each corporation $275 per head for 5 years for just the largest companies, after they agreed to that, within 24 hours, they changed their mind. They funded the opposition and ran a campaign to undermine it.
No head tax! No head tax! No head tax!
Amazon initiated a power struggle to push back on City Council. Seattle was divided. To counter the multinationals' campaign, citizens mobilized for social justice.
Extortion! No Bezos Durkin deal! No Bezos Durkin deal! No Bezos Durkin deal!
Amazon won the battle of opinion. Its petition gathered over 45,000 signatures. On June 12, 2018, the Seattle City Council decided to hold a new vote on the tax in front of supporters of both sides. Red against green, pro-tax against anti-tax.
Herbold, vote for
Quickly,
aye.
the City Council voted to reverse its new
for
taxation policy.
Juarez, vote for aye. Swan.
Only 2 council members, including Teresa Mosqueda, voted against the repeal of the tax.
Mosqueda, vote for nay. O'Brien, vote for aye. 7 in favor, 2 opposed.
So the bill passes and the chair will sign it.
Three months later, Jeff Bezos announced the launching of his own housing policy. A $2 billion private fund to help poorly housed families across the country.
And I want to make sure that public policy is driven by those who were elected to pass public policy, not by the whims of one CEO or one corporation who on one day decides to donate money. I think it's a real warning signal to the entire country that we have got to be able to govern and do so with integrity to make sure that our most vulnerable are being protected and invested in. We need public policy to be passed by those who've been elected to do so.
Every night in Seattle, City Hall opens its doors to provide a place to sleep, on the floor, to those who have nowhere else to go.